Ladies, gentlemen, and my often forgotten, but certainly not by me, Araxxor webs, welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode of Unpopular Methods. Today we're going to be looking at a combo that was once hated, then loved and cherished, and at this point I don't know where it's gone off to, but Magic Araxxor. Magic Araxxor on release was not really a thing. No one liked doing it because the melee distance was really painful and the typeless hit on top of it was not fun at all. Then after a while, with some power creep, it started to become the favored method because it was the best chance for a Fang, which at the time was a pretty penny compared to the other two drops. And honestly, nowadays, I have no idea what combat styles people use with this boss. It seems to be kind of an even mix of all three, but range and melee still seem to be favored for trying to go for skips. And luckily today, it is 1-2, so I might try for a couple of solo skips just to see what it's like. Now, as I'm sure some of you eagle-eyed people out there, yes, I already have a PB. I have been testing this for about the past 20 minutes or so, just seeing what it was like, before I decided to turn on the recording software, and so far I've gotten a couple skips, but quickly I'll just go over the preset and my thoughts behind it. So it's just kind of a bog standard mage setup with T92 armor. I have the enhanced Carapac wrist wraps. I'm not really using them for their effect, I'm just kind of using them for the magic bonus. Araxxor is not poisonable, so I just kind of use these on bosses that are not poisonable. The blast diffusion boots are just kind of a bog standard at this point. They are best in slot. And other than that, it's just kind of food, a couple of the usual switches, dual wields. My two-hand obviously is FSOA. I have a chroming swap in here, just kind of setting there looking pretty. I haven't really used it so far. I thought maybe I would use it for minions, but then I realized it hits Araxxor on a mirror back, so that's not really ideal. And other than that, I just have a Gothic Staff EOF, an ABS EOF, and one combat dummy for P4, and that's about it. Calg Demon is there just for crit chance, and let's just go ahead and get into a kill. So the thing I have been finding so far with this boss is if I do get a skip, I don't have an ultimate for P4, and if I don't get a skip, the kill's kind of slow, but I have an ultimate for P4, so it's just kind of, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Let's just go ahead and get in here. Alrighty, we're ready to go. Let's see how this goes. Go ahead and burn the web. P1, I've noticed it's really simple. You just kind of threshold and do some random stuff, and you'll do the 100k in a minute. There's nothing really to it. If you really want to go really zesty, you could toss an overpower if you want. Around the 70-ish% mark is when I use my Nami and FSOA, and then I try and go for a, what's its face? Oh, got a res here. Metamorphosis. I always forget what that ultimate is called. It always, slips my mind. Maybe we could get old meta back one of these days. That'd be really fun. Or maybe some, like, armor set to do some effects with it. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. Just kind of waiting for this web to burn. Let's go ahead and Nami FSOA now. Swap over to Blood Barrage so I don't forget later. And my Calg spec. Maybe hit the Anticipate just in case I get an unfavorable spec. And he webbed, but it's not too big of a deal. I'll just go ahead and trigger P3. Hit our Limitless, and then just tendies as soon as we can. And we did not get lucky. Usually if I get a bunch of crits there, I'll go for a an Omni Power as well, and that usually phases it, but it is what it is. Still a couple waiting for the mirror back to spawn. There he is. And I'm just gonna kind of thresh here. That's all I really do. Nothing else to it, honestly. Maybe an autos fix here to try and finish it off. And we're off to the races. This is where the combat dummy comes into play. You can kind of just surge here and spam the dummy. Get a combat dummy down target cycle to it. Hit my Calg Demon so I don't forget. And I just use Blood Barrage not only for the heals, but because it hits a tick faster. I accidentally hit his fix there, but we'll just go ahead and Omni into an ABS. And he's dead. Yeah, the 100k gets melted really quick if you have ultimate. And you have a good RNG, but that's... Honestly, it's not that bad of a method, but it's... I don't think it's so much of magic being OP at Araxxor, I think it's more so the fact of just magic is OP everywhere. And what I honestly mean by that is the power creep. Like, this boss came out, and I believe it was 2013, so this boss is almost a decade old, and it's honestly a product of its time. The HP pools seem trivial at this point. You know, 100k HP pool, that's trivial at this point for this level of power creep, but back in the day, that was a significant HP pool, and we had to sit here and plan ultimates and have our ultimates set up to where, you know, if we were ranging back then, we would DS at around 50k, or maybe a little bit earlier, so that way we could have it set up to where our rapid fire would do the last 25k with maybe a basic or two. It was a completely different era back then. And I have a lot of fond memories here just doing the boss and running through, trying to get, you know, low 4-minute kills, maybe even a 3-minute kill. And now, you know, low 2s or sub 2s, they're almost trivial. Now, what I will say is that hybrid is probably going to be the ideal method here at this point, so that way you have an ultimate for your skip, and you have an ultimate for P4 here just to basically delete them. Now, something I could have easily brought is an SGB swap, and that would easily help out with P4 basically deleting the boss completely. If you get a big SGB spec, it's gonna do at least, you know, anywhere from 30 to 50k damage. It's a really powerful spec, but I was lazy and just didn't bring it. But if you want to bring it, go for it. It's definitely worthwhile to bring. And I assume on the other two paths, it's gonna be just the same. You know, 2-3 on middle path is gonna be fine here. You don't have to do any sun or any prep for phase 2. I'd say path 2 and maybe even path 3 more so are going to be affected by needing a second combat style for an ultimate or an SGB swap of some kind, just because for the first two for phase 2 on both of these, you're forced to sit in the area, whereas the first path you can just skip it. And if you get the right RNG with 10Ds, Omni Power, and Wild Magic, you will easily get a solo skip on top path. It just takes a little bit of time. But it was interesting to revisit this boss. I have not done a kill here since probably 2018, 2017, somewhere in that time frame. After Telos release, I did an original push on Telos in 2016 with melee, got to around 350% and kind of got stalled out with the gear limitations that I had. Back during these times, I was definitely out of my league a little bit in terms of skill ability, so I was really pushing my luck trying to do Telos to make GP. And so I came here, I came to Araxxor, and I said to myself, I will not leave this boss encounter until I get one leg piece every single day. And honestly, it worked out. I ended up making a lot of GP. It paid for magic supplies and magic gear, and I don't look back negatively on this boss. It was really enjoyable back then to do, and I can see how it's still enjoyable now. The power creep has definitely made this boss a pushover compared to what it once was, but as with any boss in this game that is this old, it's probably not going to stand the test of time too well, unless it's something like Virago, where it is literally just completely filled with time gates and time locks, and even then that boss has been super power crept to a degree. But overall, if you have magic gear and you still need to complete the Araxxor log, you could easily use magic here and it is no trouble at all. And also for mid-level players, I'm not sure how a budget preset with magic would do here. I'm sure if you have the Zuck Cape, it would be perfectly fine, and you would probably have ultimates for phase 2 and 3 if you kind of just sun right on the borderline, get his HP down, move over, and then have the sun for the rest of the 100k. I'm sure it would be just fine there, especially if you have the Zuck Cape. And then phase 4 here, sun would most likely be off cooldown by that point, and then you could just use a combat dummy to help get up to sun real quick. So I could see magic being very useful here, especially if you want to take advantage of Ganodermic and Animate Dead. However, I don't see that being necessary here in the slightest. Maybe if you're really trying to learn and you have a lot of nerve problems, get very nervous in boss encounters and learning, I could see that being used as a way to help calm the nerves of the boss so you can actually get the muscle memory down. But once you build up a little bit of experience, I don't think it being necessary in the slightest. And if I look here, I'm just pulling up the PVME for GP per hour at bosses. There's a little boss revenue tab in the PVME Discord. Now this is assuming best in slot kill rates. This is like 17-16 kills an hour, which is very speedy but not impossible by any means, especially if this is kind of your standard setup where you have FSOA, you have dual wields. You don't need appraisals in like a good dual wield setup to get some of these higher kill rates. Appraisals are pretty overrated, honestly. Seismics do just fine, but if you have FSOA and an ABS EOF, a G staff just for a little bit of accuracy help, you could easily get close to these rates. It's sitting anywhere from 52 to 54 mil an hour, as far as GP per hour, anywhere from 16 to 17 kills per hour, depending on which spawn you're using. But the advantage with magic is you're just gonna run through, you're gonna be strong to the auto attacks Araxxor is doing because you're in magic gear and you're taking melee hits, so combat triangle is gonna help you out there. Now, doing stuff like this at higher enrages may not be as easy to just full send, but I assume you would be just fine doing skips and whatnot. Just be mindful of your prey flicks. I was definitely being very lazy with my prey flicks on this P4. That's because also I'm at like 40 to 60%. But overall, if you need the log here and this is the gear that you have, full on send it, you will do just fine here. The power creep is more than likely going to carry you, as it just did carry me in the testing here and in this kill. But without me rambling on for a long time, let's go ahead and roll that outro. Ladies, gentlemen, and I did not forget about you, Araxxor webs. Thank you very much for watching. Your viewership is greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you next time for the next video. Peace.